blessing for Sukkot, of being in a sukkah, of dwelling in a sukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'shev basukkah. Let's go ahead and shake the lulav and the etrog. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al netilat lulav. Starting with the east, going to the south, to the west, to the north, up towards the heavens, down towards the earth, shaking in our hearts. I hope that you're having a Sukkot filled with blessing. Welcome everybody. Welcome to my digital Sukkah. Rabbi Andy from Temple Emanuel here in Greensboro. That's the hat that I wear very often, but many also know that for the past half decade, I've also been one of the co-chairs of the Greensboro Faith Leaders Council. And today's version of the Sukkah talks that we've been doing brings us into connection with a group that is just doing fantastic work here in Greensboro, North Carolina, in our greater area, which is the Greensboro Faith Leaders Council. And I'm joined today by two of the members of our steering committee, Reverend Kim Priddy, and she'll introduce herself in a moment and talk a little bit about the work that she does, as well as Reverend Frank Dew. And I would say together with about another 4 or 5 clergy leaders here in town, we make up a steering committee that represents dozens and dozens of congregations in our area that work together to bring a religious voice on behalf of the common good and to also be advocates on behalf of many important issues that really go beyond the usual silos of our community, but really that require a strong religious and moral voice and stance. So welcome to the two of you, dear friends, as well as colleagues. I think that this occasion of Sukkot, of the Jewish festival of booths, tabernacles, this fall harvest festival, which in ancient times would have brought our people from all over to the city of Jerusalem, one of 3 major pilgrimage festivals, the other 2 being Passover, as well as the Festival of Weeks. This one is sometimes called in English either booths or tabernacles. And this is a festival that we've carried forward from antiquity into present times. It includes sitting in and dwelling outdoors. I've got I'm in my digital sukkah. That's the Hebrew word for a booth right now. But I don't want to take up any more space. Kim, you and I have been co-chairs of this group for a long, long time. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and talk a little bit maybe about what's attracted you to this type of collaborative work in the community.
Well, I'm grateful to have my first Sukkah experience with my neighbor. Andy and I don't only just co-chair, but we also are neighbors to each other. So yes. So thank you for having me. I pastor Sedgefield Presbyterian Church. We sit on the outskirts kind of Greensboro. We're very involved in the Sedgefield community. We have great partnerships with Sedgefield Elementary, Cooking Matters, Faith Action. We like to make sure people know how to have resources for healthy cooking and also to have the food that they need. But what attracts me to doing this work and to the Faith Leaders Council is, one, the interdenominational. I enjoy learning about the different ways in which we worship one God, from our different traditions and our different practices. But what that means to do social justice work and making sure those on the margins are included, and to do it with wonderful folks who have done this, and I'm learning from them and participating with them, and so it is exciting. And I appreciate the way in which the temple has led many of our much of that work. I've gathered in your space and sat along shoulder to shoulder with those who we've cried out, "How long, oh Lord, how long?" And I'm and we try to respond to that. So, yeah. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, well, and we'll come back to some of our collaborative work in a moment because I really want to tease out some of at least past work that we've done. But I want to turn to Reverend Frank Dew right now for a similar type of an introduction. Take us through what it is that you do, what it is that you've done over the course of a career here in our area, Frank.
Yeah, Andy, first of all, I just want to say it has been great having you and Rabbi Fred as friends over the years. I moved to Greensboro in 1979. Been a Presbyterian pastor in Greensboro since then. Back then, tablets were made out of stone. My hair was a different color. But it's been a blessing working with you and Fred over the years as brothers, doing God's work in Greensboro. So I'm grateful for that. Grateful also for the work that I'm doing now as peace and justice advocate for Salem Presbytery. We have 138 Presbyterian congregations from Boone to Burlington, and my role is to encourage folks to be involved in peace and justice work. It's amazing what people will let you do if they don't have to pay you, and so I'm grateful for this work. I'm also especially thinking this morning of the interfaith clergy trip that I had the blessing to take with Temple Emanuel and other clergy to Israel. I commented after that trip that before I went, my Bible didn't have any pictures in it, but now my Bible has pictures because I can think back to the Sea of Galilee and Jerusalem and all the wonderful places there, and what a great time it was just to share that experience together. And this being Sukkot, I'm also thinking of the work we've done at the Greensboro Urban Ministry to provide hospitality there. I've served as a chaplain there for about 22 years, and together with Temple Emanuel and our other interfaith partners, we have helped to provide food and shelter for folks in need of hospitality, and that fits right in with Sukkot and the holiday that you're celebrating.
Yeah, one of the things that our group has done over the years, and here I want to just kind of like reveal, I think many people may know this already, but the American holiday of Thanksgiving is actually patterned on Sukkot. And you kind of scratch your head and say, wait a second. But if you think about it, among the earliest, of those who came here to these shores, from the old world, that when they talk about the stories of the pilgrims, it says, well, after those first harvests that they did, they had a harvest festival and they opened up their Bibles and they wanted to celebrate like they did in the Bible. Well, guess what they patterned it on, right? They patterned it on, the fall festival of Sukkot of this time of the year. And so Faith Leaders Council, while we did not create, to the best of my knowledge, urban ministry, right, although it was a consortium of congregations that did it a while ago to address the issue of homelessness and hunger in our area, and while we did not create Thanksgiving, obviously, but every year, over the course of a long period of time, there has been a religious celebration of Thanksgiving, which has had some prayer elements to it, but the key thing that we've put in there is to say we want people from a variety of different congregations, and we've moved the hosting of this to different communities over the course of a long period of time. But the key thing is to raise money, to say to people, look, it's nice to bring your heart with you, but also bring your checkbook with you, because at the end of the night, we're going to have you either, pass the plate. We as the Jewish community love that because we don't do that in our services, for whatever reason. But I always get a kick out of that.
You have an honorary offering plate.
Right. You even left us like a souvenir of an offering plate. That's right. Because we did it at Temple one year. We passed the plate around. And at the end of the night, whatever it might be, many thousands of dollars go to local hunger relief projects because we feel that Thanksgiving without the giving part is not keeping up to its name. And that has been one of the things that we've done collaboratively. Kim, you went on the recent trip that we took, I think it was a year and a half ago to Israel.
Yeah.
We talk a lot in that about not just, that experience, the illustration of our Bibles, if you will, but also about building capital, social capital and connections with our colleagues, where we've been able to call on each other, not necessarily with natural relations, but also in ways that most might not expect, and to work collaboratively. I mean, maybe you can expand on that just for a moment.
Absolutely. What was wonderful about that trip is most of us didn't know everybody on the trip, and so we got to make new friends on that trip. We had opportunities to talk about where our heart was in the works of social justice. We have since, when we've gotten back, we have I know that we have worshiped with one another in different spaces. We have been able, as we've worked on different projects, we realize the gifts that their faith communities have or able to give. And so it just opened up, as you said, bigger social capital in which we could collectively use those. It's always, when we offer something, it just always seems to multiply. And so, gosh, it was just such a good trip, and to meet people that I didn't know in the ways in which their faith communities serve, and that we could collaborate together with some of those. That was just huge. That was just huge. But I will say, Rabbi Andy, my favorite thing was running through Jerusalem with you. I got firsthand experience and conversation about the ways in which people live there today. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, that was quite memorable, to go through some of the old neighborhoods. I think many people know that, that half of our family lives over, I'm talking personally here, half of our family lives over in Israel, and Jerusalem is home base. It's where my wife was born and grew up, and where I lived for a short period. And, just, knowing those streets, very much like I know the streets of Greensboro, right?
Yeah,
It was cool to kind of be able to do that on ground level,
yeah,
because so much of what we think about as religious people, is on a much different level, and to really see, and speaking about seeing cities for what they are and seeing areas for what they are, right? I mean, I think I want to come back to what Frank was talking about before, because there is a very special element to Greensboro, and yet we know that this is a city like many other places, right, which has its issues and has the things that it works on. Frank, can you talk a little bit more about the ways that we as a group, right, not only have worked together in the easy times, right, but really have turned to call on each other when things have gotten a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, Greensboro to me is a place large enough to have good diversity, but also small enough to feel like we can actually make a difference. And so, whenever there have been times of crisis, times when we needed to speak with one moral voice, we have, through the Faith Leaders Council and also our collaboration with the Pulpit Forum, sought to come together as one group, one moral voice. I think back to the killings at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, when we all came together there at the temple, and what a witness that was to our community, to see that gathering and to be reminded that we have so much that brings us together. And that was a great example. And certainly there have been other examples of that. I know we came together at College Park Baptist Church during the controversy over HB2, and really lifted up what it means to love our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, to acknowledge civil rights for all people, and the desire for marriage equality. And that was another great event.
Yeah, and Kim, what are some of the ways that we've responded, or that our voice has been echoed, that really stick out for you?
You know, when things happen so fast in our culture, or in our city, or in our nation, we have come together as a steering committee and put thoughts onto paper as to be very transparent about what we believe our faith calls us to do. And so I've appreciated the times that we've put our hands and our hearts to work to create a document that we share with our city that says where we stand on these issues. And we invite clergy to participate in signing those. I think it's important for people to understand, those who have faith in God, to say, this is what we believe about what's going on, and this is how we interpret that we are supposed to treat one another, and we are to give voice to that. So I love, sometimes I feel like we were writing a lot back to back to back because there was so much going on, but we all think it's important work, and we kind of stop what we're doing and we start writing together.
Yeah, and I would say this, that, in responding to, some of the challenges that we've seen relative to immigration, right?
Yes.
Our voice has been a resounding, right, in support of those who are coming new to our country,
Yeah.
and not falling into what might be the easy targeting. We know that in the Bible it says at least 36 times how we're to treat the stranger, and our voice has been strong there. A voice on behalf of racial equity and on behalf of countering racism.
We talked about it with school shootings. I mean, we've
Yeah, in response to, I
better.
remember in response to Sandy Hook many years
Yeah.
ago, but also, after Charlottesville,
Yeah.
when we were downtown, I remember that quite vividly. And here in Greensboro, we cannot tiptoe around it. Like, very often, I mean, this is a city, in the modern era, defined by social action. February 1st of 1960 was a moment. It did not emerge out of nowhere. History here had its challenges, and February 1st, continues to, I would say, inspire, but also, how would you say, challenge us as leaders, and no much the more so than the events of 1979 and the terrible shooting and deaths at that point, which have colored so many of our conversations, and really stand as a, here's where things go seriously wrong. So after Charlottesville, there were important responses, things that we've all been a part of, and as you said, writing these type of statements, as well as being present for our voices. And I know that the three of us just represent a couple of different points on what's a very significant map here in Greensboro. We are one of the more religiously connected communities in the world.
Yeah.
And the diversity of our voices, I think, helps people understand that when people say, well, the religious community feels this way, it's like, hold on a second. There is a spectrum of opinion within the religious world. And maybe the media might go in one direction and say, well, here's a voice. Very often they portray it as the voice.
Right.
But when you look at the preponderance of numbers who are really speaking on behalf of issues, this is important type of things. Just in our closing moments here,
Yeah.
if you could talk just a little bit about, this period of COVID, and this moment of, of living in a pandemic, and the type of support, not only within your own communities, but the support that we've given to each other. Kim, if you would just spend a moment there with us.
Yeah. Well, I think with this pandemic, it's kind of helped us as a faith community to recognize our DNA and what we do well. We have, um, how do we continue community when we can't do it in the ways in which we are so comfortable with and which are so natural to us, and it's all that we know. And so we have figured out, how do we call each other? How do we write letters? How do we Zooms and FaceTime and that sort of thing? So in our church, we've been lucky to continue some of the missions work. And then personally, I have enjoyed, because this has been tough, I have enjoyed colleagues that I can come to when my feet are tired and my eyes are tired from Zoom, and just say, gosh, this is hard work. And folks kind of say, yeah, it is. We've never done anything like this before. Frank is one of my favorite mentors I have, and he's not had this experience before, but to be able to walk with people in this. And then I think our Faith Leaders Council, gosh, we had some of our largest coming together of folks, because we had people in our community who wanted to help educate the faith community, from Moses Cone to our mayor to our chief to our, this is how it's affecting our community, and this is what we need you to share with your people as far as education and being safe and understanding what's going on. So this has really just been a great place to get that information. And we've had, gosh, we've had some of our biggest folks. We've had 50 and 60 people on Zoom calls with us as we've had leaders come and tell us. So this has been an important place, and ever so more important during COVID-19 for me personally, and as leading a church. So I am grateful to the work that this body does.
And Frank, is there anything that you'd also like to gloss on at this point, especially with this very contemporary concern, as a religious leader?
Yeah, Andy, I think that the witness of the Greensboro Faith Leaders Group as a colleague support group, as Kim was saying, is really so valuable right now. None of us have done what we are doing right now. And so we're really saddling the horse while riding it in a lot of ways. And so it's been so great to come together. And even though we're coming from a variety of traditions and perspectives, we're all really trying to do the same kinds of things, and to encourage each other and support each other, and also to speak to our city about what it means to love our neighbors in this circumstance is so important. And especially during this election season, to encourage one another to be good stewards of our citizenship by voting, by being involved in the process. All those are things that we do together out of a concern for the common good.
Just amazing. And it's amazing to have this conversation. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this. For those of you who are watching right now, who have come into the digital Sukkah with me right now, in addition to the conversations within the Jewish community, I hope that you will see this as an opportunity to share with others the work that we're doing more broadly, and vice versa. For those who are from beyond the Jewish community who are watching today, to please share this resource also. We will put links in for the Facebook page for the Greensboro Faith Leaders Council, as well as our website. And if anyone has any questions or is looking forward to being connected up with this group, I hope that you'll be in touch. One of the things that I often do in our meetings as one of the co-chairs is I'll turn to either Frank or I'll turn to Kim to take us out with a blessing. They're so good at it. One of the things they didn't teach us in rabbinic school was how to do these blessings. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, right? Because, but I'll tell you, you have taught me so much, and I think that there is so much to learn by our collaboration from within the Jewish community's perspective. at the beginning of this month, when we have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you know, the New Year and the Day of Atonement, those are days when we are really inside. And it's been so hard for us, like it's been for so many other religious groups, that we're not able to be inside our building right now. That's very particular to our experience, and we've had to look for alternative ways. But the holiday of Sukkot says, get outside, right? Sit outside of the building that you're used to being in.
Mm.
And what does that do, right? It broadens our perspective. It brings us in contact with the broader world. It reminds us that not only are we working on our own spiritual journeys, right, but there's a world that we inhabit. That's a lesson for this time, for a time of COVID. That's also right to be more than just concerned about yourself. There is a broader world out there. But I think it's also a lesson for all times. And I want to thank you as we've walked together, as we've worked together, as we've worked with so many over the years. It truly has been a blessing. So in Hebrew, we say Hag Sameach, which means may this be a time filled with goodness and happiness and joy. And, you know, whatever measure there is out there that we can bring to one another, please know how grateful I am for it. So everybody, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And we'll see you again real soon.
Okay.
Well, I truly am grateful for today's conversation. I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for checking in and for listening to this conversation. And by all means, feel free to share this with others. I know that it is part of an ongoing connection that we have, not only to our own story here as a temple, as Temple Emanuel in Greensboro, but also to the larger Jewish story. That's at the heart of what Sukkot is connecting to the larger world, and in particular connecting to our people wherever we may be, to our history, and making this world a better place. So on that note, let me wish you a Hag Sameach. Share this with others, and we'll see you again real soon.